doing? Has it done its? Yep, it has done its thing. That's amazing. So I realized that we didn't manage to properly chat with each other on voice before this because I was too busy settling all the technical details. Sorry about that. But anyway, hello everyone. Hello guys. Yeah, so I'm Dutch. There's Connor on the other side of the line with me. Hello, Connor.
Hello.
Hello. So this is going to be our first legit, hopefully serious kind of cast. And I don't know, yeah, that's all I have to say really. I'm really excited about our topic today because I'll just get right into it and introduce us. Um, what I was, one thing that amazed me about Connor, and I'm sorry to speak about you in third person because it's kind of weird, is that you actually never had any formal music theory classes, but you write really, really well. So yeah, that actually amazes me. And I don't know, I'm just
Well,
yeah.
I'm really glad that you think so highly of my writing because I think all artists have, on at least some level, they have this problem with being too self-deprecating, and
Absolutely.
I most certainly have had that problem with myself, thinking too little of what I do, especially when I started off. Because when I started arranging, as we all were, I was
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely horrible, and I could recognize that I was horrible. But then I took that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is bad music, but I can learn from the mistakes that I've made with this, and I can make better music. And I just kept doing that, and it was a process. I was not off the bat as good at writing as I am now.
Yeah. Still, that's amazing, because, well, what I understand at least about starting out, from trying to start out many things, for my whole music journey is that when you start off, there's this period of time, right, when you're doing your first video or your first arrangement or your first whatever, which is just painful as crud because there's so many things to figure out. Like you don't even know how the software works. You don't even know how to write nice things. You don't know how to write music, much less so publish it and write something sensible. So how do you get over that?
I think that the turning point for me was when I seriously started trying to analyze and transcribe other people's music, the work
Hmm, amazing.
of Shimamura. And yeah, once I was able to think, okay, I'm going to step away from myself and I'm going to focus on other people's music and I'm going to see how
Mm-hmm.
they accomplish their goals well. And then once I had a better understanding of, as a listener, how certain musical ideas affected me, then I could more effectively recreate, not necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
I could figure out how to implement into my own music.
Yeah, and that's amazing, honestly. Because I mean, what I would think is even when you're analyzing music, right? Even when you're listening to other people's music, it's very hard to do that without the language of analysis, without some technical language, without some kind of theoretical basing to start from. Don't you feel that way?
Yes, I will admit it's been very much a struggle
Oh
because I
man.
do not know names for these cadences, for these chord progressions, and it can make things difficult at times. I didn't even know what a chord voicing was until I was in grade 9 when I actually took one choir class.
Wow. That's actually just amazing. That's absolutely amazing, man, really. I mean, I hope you know that, and I hope you can, appreciate all the pain that you went through to reach this point because it's amazing. Like actually just amazing.
Well, thank you, Dash.
No, not at all, please. Uh yes, you know what? No, I'm just gonna take it. Thank you. um well, because my experience is that I was formally trained. I was formally trained my whole life. So when it came from, when I had to take the jump from music theory to arranging, it wasn't that bad because I already knew chord voicing, I already knew well, texturing, and I was quite familiar with the sound of the piano. So the jump really wasn't that hard for me at all. So it's always amazing to see people just enjoy their craft so much, who actually just enjoy arranging to the point where they're willing to jackhammer at it. I think that's the word, jackhammer at it until they figure something out. And I think that's your story to a large extent, which really inspires me.
Yes, there have been times when I absolutely did have to jackhammer at it. But what I found was my starting point and where I am now, it wasn't a linear progression. It was more exponential. There was a long period of time when I wasn't making much progress at all. And then I think it was around grade 9 that I finally hit the point where I started to gain momentum with my music. And that was 5 years ago.
Wow. So you've just been hitting away at music arranging for a good 10 years, basically. And it's only been in the last 5 years where you started to see some fruits.
Yes.
Amazing. That's amazing. Like, how did you even figure out that there was software to do this, or there were platforms for you to publish your things?
Well, I was homeschooled. I
Right?
think that I told you that.
Yes, yes, yes.
I was on a forum for other homeschoolers, and I saw people who wanted to get into music. And I've always loved to play the piano. When my mom was in college and I was just walking along everywhere with her, there was a piano in one of the hallways in a building that we went through all the time. And so I would always go over and bang on the keys a little bit, and then we'd continue on our walk. So I've always had an affinity for the piano. So I was excited when I saw this because I thought these are people my age that have probably had more experience. Maybe I can learn something from them. And some of them were actually using a free program called Finale Notepad. And that was my introduction to the software behind making music.
Finale Notepad. So Latios over here in the chat, that's the administrator of Ninsheet Music. Finale Notepad is the introductory. Finale Notepad, yes. Yes, sorry. What was your experience with that?
It was a very difficult experience. Not only had I never had any musical software notation as a program, is just extremely limited in what you can do. One key for the entire piece of music that you write. Only basic sharp and flat accidentals. While it did have some things that were really useful for me as I was starting out, it was in general just such a pain to learn. And you couldn't really do much with it at the end of the day.
Yes.
Only 8 voices is really difficult to work with.
Sorry, wait, come again. Only 8 voices is really difficult to work with.
Voices on 8 instruments. You can only use 8 instruments max at a time.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you did start with solo piano.
I did start with solo piano, but I quickly wanted to start, like I said, I wanted to transcribe other people's music. Whoa. And that was extremely difficult with Finale Notepad because of the limitations of the software.
Right. So where did you go from there? Because I'm sure you upgraded. You hit MuseScore at some point.
Yes, I did. I used a couple of free browser-based notation softwares. I can't remember the names of them. And when
browser-based notation, they exist.
Yes, browser-based notation exists. It took a very long time to find, but that worked for me for a little bit. Oh. And then I also got a tab to, I think it was called Ensemble Composer Pro. It allowed me to not have any instrument limitations. It allowed me to change keys in songs, and that was what I used for a long time. But unfortunately, the input was extremely limited because it's just a tablet. All you have are two fingers. You can't use keyboard shortcuts or anything like that. So
Oh,
so it took a very long time to write anything. And unfortunately, I had worked on with that, ended up getting thrown in the dumpster.
oh man. Still, that's amazing that you powered through that phase, if I may.
I was in grade 10 when I discovered MuseScore, and that's what I've been using for the last 4 years.
Amazing. Yeah. So I think new score is the way to go if you wanna, well, at least now that we've had the privilege of many competitors on the market. And I think new score is the way to go if you want a free notation software. It really is.
I'd agree with you. MuseScore is a fantastic program for people who are
Mm-hmm.
trying to get into music production, music notation without much of a budget.
Oh
There are
yes,
so many
absolutely.
free resources available to help you learn how to use MuseScore as a program.
Yep.
There are so many different supplemental SF2 and SFZ instruments that you can implement directly into the program itself. So you aren't just limited to the same base patches. You can add whatever
Wow.
you.
That is that's not
It's
bad.
a really liberating software.
Huh. And I'm saying this as someone who has, well, very little experience with MuseScore. And every time I have to use MuseScore for something, like our joint composition and jointer projects, like I actually get really sad when I have to write on MuseScore. Because it's okay, to be very honest, because I know it's a good software. But I've been trained on Sibelius my whole life. And I know Sibelius is a terrible software. I know its UI is wonky. I know that it's a bit of a mess. And I know at the very depths of my heart that if Sibelius didn't give me a bunch of VST sounds which sounded amazing, I would pick MuseScore any day. But I still get very sad every time I write on MuseScore.
Yes, I will agree. The lack of VST instruments can be a hindrance at times because I absolutely do not ever want to have to use a DAW. I hate the thing.
Fair, fair, fair. That's very fair. But I mean, well, I guess it depends on what you want to do with it, right? Because once you start on a DAW, you kind of open up a different sound world, which is just way more than arranging, right? You know, you get to mix and produce and even do electro. So I think it's a different ball game once you hit that stage.
Yes, but that's not a stage that I've hit yet, and I don't know when I'll hit it. For
Okay.
now, I'm going to continue using MuseScore and continue improving my notation, my arranging, and my composing from there.
Amazing though. That's amazing. Just as a quick aside, do you intend to, branch out into, let's say, digital music, electro? Just curious.
What are my thoughts on electro?
Yeah, I guess.
One of the things that I really like about electronic music done right is the fact that you have so many different musical textures that you
Yes,
can create. You
yes.
don't, when you just have people using the same 10 patches, the same 10 synth sounds,
Oh
it gets
man.
really boring really fast. But when you open up to the vast amount, all the different sounds that you can make electronically, I think electronic music can be a beautiful thing. I just think that with all musical mediums, people aren't necessarily using it in the way that they should.
Amazing. I love the response so much. And if this wasn't a serious podcast and it wasn't about arranging, I would go down that rabbit hole. But that's not today, some other day. Because yeah, I managed to play with electro for a few years and I absolutely agree with you that the sound world people are used to, at least in our mainstream music media, the sound world of electro there is really limited, right? You already know when the beat drop is coming, you already know how the scratch sounds. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yes, yes, very cool thoughts there. Very, very cool thoughts. Uh, but sadly, let's talk about arranging. Okay, not sadly, but you get my point. So, back to arranging. If I may ask, I think the one most difficult thing about arranging in general is harmony, because it's actually really, really important to know harmony if you want to go from transcribing to arranging, because harmony is your source of shortcuts. It's your source of Um, I'm actually struggling to think of a second thing other than shortcuts because that's like 99% of what I use harmony for. But I guess it's your source of tone color, it's your source of tension and progression. So, as someone who hasn't formally studied harmony, what are your thoughts on it?
I think that harmony is extremely important, not because it provides shortcuts for me. It doesn't really do that. I spend so much time when I am composing. I'll get sidetracked and I'll just tweak the harmony. I'll see, okay, what happens if I shift this note up a semitone? What happens if I bring this note down a whole step? It creates harmony is a very important part of the musical language.
Mm-hmm.
Melody is, while I think melody is important, I think harmony is equally important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is
Absolutely.
just by itself.
Uh-huh.
There's not really a whole lot that you can do with it.
Yep.
You can sing it, but it doesn't provide as much interest. Harmony is what really allows you to take that musical idea and make it into a story.
Yes. Absolutely. 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 Though there's a paradigm in melody writing that if you write a good melody, it should also paint the harmony along with it. But no, that being said, you're absolutely right. Harmony is what tells the story. So in that case, how did you pick it up?
I jackhammered.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's absolutely awesome, and it's amazing because have you heard of George Gershwin?
Yes, I have heard.
Yes. So that lad, right, never had formal music experience. That lad, he wrote a piano concerto, a few amazing tone poems. Okay, I'm not sure if we can call them tone poems. An American in Paris. No, okay, I don't think that's a tone poem, but we get the idea. Just amazing stuff. And then I realized he wasn't musically trained, at least formally, which is just like what. So yes, next George Gershwin, that'll be you.
Well, thank you.
And he liked jazz very much. So he did a few musicals. But yeah, fun guy.
Yes, George Gershwin was very fun. I quite liked his Rhapsody in Blue piece.
Oh yes, that is the good stuff. That is really really good
By
stuff.
far, I think it's one of the most American orchestra pieces out there because I'm not
Oh.
going to say self-made, but it's from the bottom up. This is a guy who
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the formal training that people thought he needed to be a good composer or a good
Mm-hmm.
orchestrator.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, America is supposedly the ideal is that it's a land of equal opportunity. And so he was
Absolutely.
given that equal opportunity and it really paid off for him.
Yes. Yes. I'm actually getting chills now down my hands. It's just so American. Yes, absolutely. So American. I'm saying this as a non-American. Right? It's like, it's like Jay Gatsby except without the illegal stuff. I think that's not bad. But that being said, thinking about, well, what else? Because I'm back to arranging once again because as much as it's fun to talk about people who have no musical experience and then they turn out to be massive titans and just giants in the scene, of course, a lot of us are much more humble. And for me, theory is just really, really useful, honestly. Like when I was learning music theory, I don't think I really appreciated what it was for, as is, all kinds of theory that we learn. Anything you learn in the course, which like any of those subjects we all know, biology, chemistry, history, you're like, what is this for? It's fun, but what is it for? And then suddenly, when you use it, you use it. For me, that was music theory, because I think I learned advanced theory when I was in the equivalent of, let me do the calculations, probably 7th or 8th grade. And I didn't know what that was for. Like, absolute jack, absolute zilch, no idea what that was for. And the knowledge kind of stayed there. And it was only a good 4 years later when I wrote the Root 216 arrangement that I realized, oh my gosh, theory is useful. So that was my experience with theory, and from that point on, it's been a shortcut. Because when you can guess the harmony, you don't actually need to transcribe all the notes. So for you, when you arrange something, what's your approach? Do you guess any parts? Or is it really just, all out transcribing, all out jackhammering and putting yourself out there and enjoying the music? What's your approach?
I'm going to say this as someone who knows very little theory, even now that I've started to actively try and learn some of the technical jargon behind music. Music is a language, and music
Mhm.
theory is the dictionary.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful.
So I know some of the words in the musical language, but I don't necessarily have the definitions of everything. I don't know how certain ideas can consistently be expressed in the same way through.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I am at somewhat of a disadvantage because of that, but you know, I just love music so much. So when I arrange, my
Mm-hmm.
approach is to listen to the song 50 times and then I outline the melody
Mm-hmm.
or my interpretation of the melody
Oh wow.
either on a piano or in MuseScore.
Mm-hmm.
And then I listen to it about 50 more times and I think, okay, so this is what
Mm-hmm.
I feel the composer was trying to do with this piece of music. Is he trying to make me feel happy? Is he trying to make me feel sad? Is he trying to make me feel inspired? What's
Mm-hmm.
the end goal here? And do I
Wow.
want to, in my interpretation of this piece, pursue that same end goal, or do I want to go for something a little different?
Mm.
And then I will start making changes to the harmony based on that, whether or not, okay, do I want this to sound like a happier
Mm-hmm.
part of the piece, or do I want to make this seem a little more down?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at something for a really long time and you're near the end of the road, but you don't know if you can take those last few steps. And so I start
Mm.
thinking about things thematically, and then I try and work my harmony and my musical texturing based around that.
And that's just amazing, honestly. That's a very, if I may, I think it's an incredibly pure approach to music. It's ground up, and it's amazing because it's unpretentious, it's real, and and in a lot of ways, you will catch a lot of details that many of us don't see, which I think is amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
I may not have formal music experience, but I've been writing for a very long time as well. I started writing prose when I was in grade 6 as well.
Ah,
And I think that my music and my writing have sort of grown together as I learn more
ah.
about how to write good stories on pen and paper. I learn better how to write good stories on the piano.
So Lat in the chat and me in my head is thinking that's really interesting. Would you care to share more on how you think it's related? Because that's really interesting to me.
Yes, well, music and English are simply two different languages through which
Uh
you
huh.
can convey emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start writing, the equivalent of outlining the melody for an arrangement would be you start
Mm-hmm.
outlining the plot of a story. You start deciding, okay, these are the main events.
Mm-hmm.
Think of those main events as little bitty motifs that
Mm-hmm.
you repeat throughout the story.
Wow.
And then once you actually start writing, then you add things like dialogue and scene and exposition. That's the harmony. That's what makes the writing shine.
Ah.
Even though the main ideas are beautiful, you need something to actually latch onto, ideas that are more concrete or more abstract than just, okay, uh,
Wow.
B and person C got sad. You need to have that attention to detail. And so that's like the harmony.
Wow. That's actually really, really fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating, honestly. Yeah, Lat in the chat says, cool, I've never thought of it that way. And if I may share, I don't think I've had one of those experiences. No, wrong. How should I phrase this? so I kind of get what you mean, that music is a language in some ways, and it does transfer other kinds of language. No, wrong. Other languages transfer over to music in some way. You can see the parallels. But I kind of had it in reverse, because in many ways music is my first language, if we want to stick with the analogy. And I realized that well, I never like to read. Like, looking at words makes me feel sad, so I never liked that. But after doing YouTube for a good 2.5 years, and then I went into law school, and it's really just nothing but reading, I actually learned to appreciate the rhythm behind language, the meter behind certain phrases, the prosody. The word is prosody. I'll type it out. Very beautiful word. Please do search it up. Behind certain phrases as well. Like, even in legal language, actually, where they say something like, I don't know, something like, let me think of a very dumb rule that sounds really nicely if you read it out properly. Something like, frustration occurs when the obligations of the contracting parties become impossible or impracticable to perform. You feel that kind of rhythm in the language, but that's my experience. It's kind of the opposite.
Maybe it kind of stems from my background singing in choirs as I was growing up.
Oh, I see.
Because then that would definitely help my brain make the connection between music as a language and English as a language.
That is really cool. So you kind of follow poetry. You follow the movement of poetry really well, I guess.
It definitely did help me to learn, yes.
Amazing. Yeah, that's actually amazing. So have you written any vocal pieces? Just curious.
I have written a few vocal pieces.
Dang.
I'm actually, yes, the trouble is, like with you, when you present your director with this orchestra,
yes, exactly.
he's not all that certain that he wants to invest so much time and effort and make his students invest so much time and effort into something written by someone not even in their 30s who doesn't really have that much of a background. Even if they have the background, they don't necessarily have the experience that would make him assured that this is a good piece. That was kind of like me with my choir directors. I've written a few choral pieces, but
oh man.
And it's all right that it's hard to break through, because it makes me want the piece that finally does allow me to break through to be all that much better.
That's wisdom right there. And okay, note to self, clip this part later. That's good wisdom there. It really is. It really, really is. Because that is the nature of music, right? Many of the things we write, many of the things we do don't even see the light of day. Even if we get it published, it may not even reach the end. So yeah, it's a very nice way to, I think what you just said is a really nice way to, I guess, give meaning to the grind. Yeah, it gives meaning to the grind, if I may.
Yeah, it does. And I'm going to say, I never had and never will have the bass that you do on YouTube. But when I ended up closing my first channel last December, I had 47 subscribers.
Yeah, but
3,000 views. But the original pieces that I posted, I don't think any of them got 10 views. And I think the biggest cover piece I did was my orchestration of Dialga's Fight to the Finish from Mystery Dungeon 2, and that got over 3,000 views. So that was pretty nice. It just shows that people aren't going to pay as much attention to the new musical ideas that you have to offer. They want to hear old musical ideas again.
Well, I'm not sure if I generalize it like that. But okay, if I may offer my perspective, I think it's slightly different. I don't think it's true that people don't want to hear new musical ideas. They very much do want to hear new musical ideas, but they don't know how to search for those. Because if let's say you wanted to hear new music, what could you possibly search? So the way I see it is you cannot really get people by, well, even though people even if people want new music, they will find it through, let's say, listening to your covers and liking your sound and realizing, hey, you do new music. So the channel that they go through to find new music is just a bit more complicated. But I don't think it necessarily stands that people don't want to hear new music. That's my take on it.
Well, perhaps you're right. Maybe I am being a bit too cynical on that one.
Nah, not at all. Just being realistic. If we just open our eyes and look at reality, we kind of see that it's true. Cover songs get way more views, way more easily. Yeah, but that being said, I don't think having a low view count or anything. It's a lot of the time. It's in my view, I don't think it's not the end. It's and everyone wants an audience, but it's fine to start off and try to rev the engine a few times before it finally goes. So yeah, you'll get there. You'll
Yeah,
get there.
and it's not like view counted. It was an interesting trend that happened. I was kind of like studying how my music was being marketed by YouTube and what people were finding which pieces.
Yes, absolutely that. There's definitely business behind it. It's just, yeah, there are some principles to follow and there are some tips and tricks. That's for sure. It goes without saying. That's YouTube. It's a business, and we are all little fish in their sea, which is fine. It is what it is.
Yes, we are, but even though the ocean's a pretty big place, there's a chance that you'll swim across a few more fish
Indeed.
on your own journey. So
I like to see it as, being okay. I wanted to use do you know the kid story of the rainbow fish who gave out their scales?
yes, I loved that book as a child.
Yeah, I know, right? So it's kind of like that. There will be fish that stand out, and your objective is to give your scales out. I like to see it that way. Yeah, so but yeah, YouTube marketing is another really interesting topic that I'll talk about with someone someday, which I can't say I'm interested in it, but it's a fun topic. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to the day that you have that discussion with someone because I am interested.
Oh, it shall happen someday, when eventually, maybe. Yeah, pretty much like everything else on the server. Somewhere, someday, eventually, maybe. How? Yes. Well, so I should have prepared questions for this because I was really excited about this topic, and right now I realize there's so much to ask and I have no idea what to ask. Well, it'd be like that.
It's all right. I didn't necessarily come here the most prepared either.
Is it good? We is good. This is good. All is fine. No problem.
Sometimes I feel like coming into a matter not knowing what to expect helps us to be just a bit more honest.
Yes, it's just like dating. Anyway, that was an aside. Let's talk about life. Haha, JK. But that being said, I think, right, I just remembered my question. So, what are your plans, if I may, for arranging? Because you told me that you've kind of closed your YouTube channel for now. What are your plans going ahead?
Right now, I'm really focusing on trying to. It's a bit difficult to really put this into words, but
Right.
my plans for how I create music are at this point. I want to express emotional ideas through music. And so I'm spending a lot of time thinking about, okay, what have I done in the past that has elicited certain emotional responses in people? How do my stories best connect with others. And I'm trying to write music that sort of not relies, I'm trying to find the right word, but that utilizes those techniques. I'm trying to learn how to be the most efficient in how I write music right now.
Mm, I see.
You know, you've said before,
Mm-hmm.
in just in text chat,
Mm-hmm.
that you look at what I do with music as sort of arranging, I mean, no, improvisation on a sheet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
and that is very much what it is, but I think that I need to be a little bit more deliberate in what I
Ah,
do.
I see.
So so
So that's the place of music theory, I suppose.
yes, that's partially why I've started to study music theory a bit more, is because I want to be more familiar with the language. I want to know more of the dictionary definitions, if you will.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. But now that I think about it, I'm not sure if the dictionary analogy works. Because a dictionary doesn't really help you um, write faster. It's kind of like a rule book or a guidebook. I think I think I'll take guidebook. Not a very elegant example as a dictionary is, but I'll take guidebook. I think it's, music theory is your backbone. At least I use it as a backbone. Yeah, and I think that with with some theoretical foundation, it's quite easy to build off, just different kinds of arrangements on the same foundation. Um, okay, but on that point, right, one thing I'll concede, and I've conceded this before, is that it does make your arrangements quite cookie cutter. I concede that. And I concede that I like doing cookie cutter arrangements because it brings the views and it's in line with my mission. But it brings the views. Good clickbait. So I enjoy doing cookie cutter theoretical arrangements. So this ends might be a bit different from yours, which is genuinely to express better emotions through music. Yes, that be. Oh, by the way, make sure you didn't mute yourself. Uh, how is it? My internet dying again. Oh no.
I'm
Right, I
sorry,
hear
Daz, for about 20 seconds there you kind of cut out. I didn't catch him.
you. Is it good? It's good. Such is life, isn't it? Um, what was I gonna? Oh yes. So no worries. You can just do it again. So theory to me is a backbone. Um, it's kind of like it's like it's like a mold. You just take it and then you make the same thing over and over again. It does make your arrangements terribly formulaic and cookie cutter, and I concede it. But I do enjoy arranging like that. It's in line with my mission. It brings the views, and I realize that you have a slightly different goal from that. You don't really want to make cookie cutter arrangements.
No, but I'm going to concede that if my goal is to make music that emotionally impacts people, while the way I'm going about it now might impact a few people, it'll
Mm,
mostly be the people that I already know. Whereas
mm.
if I did learn more theory and I did learn how to make more cookie cutter arrangements, I would be. There's just, it's hard to find a balance between the two sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, okay. I mean, we all have our own views. I take the extreme, and I think it's fine that we all have our own views. It's great. But yeah, I am incredibly looking forward to the stuff that you're gonna show us in the next few months, and your upcoming album as well. That's gonna be really interesting.
Yes, it is. I'm still working very hard on that.
That's amazing. To end us off, do you wanna just let us know a bit about that album? Eos. This one's not me, right?
You cut out again.
No.
Sorry.
All right. No worries. I'll just ask the question again. Yeah. So. Oh, both of us are cutting out. Lol. Discord is great. Okay. Well, such is life. What I guess I did want to ask is about that album that you're coming out. Anything you want to say to end us off? Like anything you want to tell us about it?
Well, I don't want to get into too much spoiler territory, but I do have an album that I'm writing for largely solo piano. It's a winter themed album that I think that I'll be releasing either the tail end of 2020 or sometime early 2021. It's mostly solo piano, ensemble arrangements thrown into the mix as well. Some of the musical themes that I'm working on with this are restraint and intimacy and delicacy, which I think are really fitting themes for winter as a season. So this has been quite a challenge for me, but what is my musical journey but a series of challenges that I'm going to have to overcome.
Absolutely.
This is one that I'm not going to jackhammer though. I'm just really excited to have learned as much about music as I have through the limited means available to me. And I'm excited that I've gotten to meet so many people that have helped me along my journey, so many people that have encouraged me. And this has just been a really great experience for me. And I wouldn't have learned music any other way. So I just want to thank all you guys for being there for me.
That's absolutely amazing. Oh, you heard it. So Connor's releasing an album in the winter, and it's going to be winter in the winter. No, okay, whenever that is, and it's going to be winter themed. So that's going to be really cool. Yeah, you noticed I took out all the personal stuff about restraint and intimacy. Welcome to the music world. JK. But yeah, do keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, guys. So, with that all said, I think that shall be it for today. Thank you so much for having me, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was a great experience. Sorry if I'm a little stiff.
No,
I do kind of get stage fright.
Oh man, no worries. You were great. You were great. It's a good. Alright then. So I think that shall be it for today's stream. If you guys want all those on the voice chat, just go ahead and banter and do your thing if you like. But otherwise, we're gonna be ending the stream. Thank you so much everyone for watching. Thank you Connor for your wonderful, wonderful sharings. And yeah, see you guys next time. Ending stream.
Bye everyone.
Dang! Okay, so